Happy Hump Day, sports fans, and welcome back to FNN Sports Take with me, Kasey Hudson. As usual, I'm so excited to talk with you guys, give you guys updates, and more importantly, dive into some game conversation. Y'all know that I'm not a gossip girl. I am a numbers girl, and I live for game days where I can actually come back here, break down games with you guys, talk stats, talk analytics, but between COVID-19 and everything else, all we've had to chat about is updates as well as what everybody's doing during quarantine besides twiddling their fingers. So we dive into it, not with football just yet. We do have the ESPYS coming up this Sunday, guys, at 9 p.m., and it will be hosted by Russell Wilson, Megan Rapone, and Sue Bird. There's been great advertising surrounding these ESPYs. Obviously, they will be remote so that we can keep everybody safe and sound because there is still COVID-19 taking place, but the way that the draft happened virtually, there was some fun commercials in there. There was some extra entertainment to it that only you can do with production and graphics. So I'm sure that they're going to make this as special as possible. So I can't wait to see that take place this Sunday at 9 p.m. Don't forget to tune in and check that out. All the awards, everybody who is due, long due, overdue for certain awards. And we'll jump to that a little bit later in the segment. Now, we do obviously hop into NFL and some football talk. The Bucs had a very exciting moment yesterday. We talked a little bit on Monday that they were going to be potentially releasing Tom Brady's official Bucs uniform pictures. Yes, nobody's digitizing and putting graphics on him and making him look how he may or may not look in a Bucs uniform. We saw the official look of Tom Brady in a Bucs uniform, and the reactions, of course, were resounding. People are excited. It's official. Tom Brady is our quarterback. And Brady, of course, in simple form, posted it on his Instagram and took to the caption, LFG. If you don't know what that means, you got to Google it because, look, guys, we're live. I can only say so much. But fans are excited. Aside from the major excitement of fans and all the season tickets and all the tickets that were purchased to be present to watch this live and go down, we still don't know if fans will be in the stands. And people are saying that that's going to be very unlikely this season. But, of course, with pictures and hype and excitement comes questions and questions. The biggest question being, is there too much hype surrounding Tom Brady? And is there too much hype surrounding the Bucs? We know that this isn't a new question, but everybody wants to dive in a little deeper as time gets closer to the 2020 NFL season kickoff. So we'll dive in a little bit deeper. Is there too much hype around the Bucs? Well, a couple weeks ago, you heard me say, look, we don't have to call them Super Bowl contenders just yet. Is it exciting that the Super Bowl is going to be here in Tampa Bay? Absolutely. But let's not put that pressure on them. Fantastically enough, Bruce Arians said in his press conference a couple weeks ago, look, let's not add the pressure. Every season is a fresh start. You never know what you're going to come into. What I like to do, and why I like to point out that I'm a numbers girl, is that puts things into perspective. It gives you realistic comparisons so that you can have real conversation. So let's have some real conversation. If you look at the Bucs 2019 season stats, they closed out their regular season at 7-9. They closed out their preseason 3-1, and in my opinion, professional opinion, there's 4 to 5 games the Bucs could have and should have won. Now, I know people sit around and they're like, coulda, shoulda, woulda, but these coulda, shoulda, wouldas are a bit more significant than just saying, hey, my team should have won it. And it's a lot more important because that coulda, shoulda, woulda, that little margin that could have won them these games, that was fixed. That margin of error was corrected. When we look at the Bucs shoulda, coulda, wouldas, they could have won week 3 versus the Giants, week 8 versus the Titans, week 16 versus the Texans, and let's not even get into week 17 versus the Falcons, because if anybody watched that game, not only were you on the edge of your seats for that overtime game, but you lost your mind when that turnover happened in that second, that last final second where the Bucs had the game in their pocket and then hand-delivered it to the Falcons and said, here, actually, we didn't want this season. You take it. So that's the 4 games that the Bucs coulda, shoulda won. Now, for the 5th game that they could have won would have been game 2 versus the Panthers, or not game 2, but matchup 2 versus the Panthers. Monday, I was explaining to you guys that where the Bucs kind of fell short defensively was the fact that if we came up against a team that had an extremely strong run game, we struggled. It showed. Now, part of that struggle, what could have played into it, is the fact that our defense was overworked. They were on the field way too much last year. They were relied on way too much. And let's be serious. Most of the games that we won was because of our defense, was because of the turnovers and the fumbles that they caused on their end and the touchdowns that they got on their end, not particularly our offense. So if we would have, or when we faced the Panthers matchup 1, The biggest weapon on their team, and almost still till this day, is Christian McCaffrey. He's a dominant running back. You can put him in the slot. He's very versatile, extremely athletic. We know this. He was contained to only 16 carries matchup 1, and then he was contained to 22 carries matchup 2 and probably rushed for 5 to 10 more yards. So in many games, you see that where we lost by this much was because of the run game that just overworked our defense, our already tired defense. If you look at the games that we did lose, week 3, 8, 11, and 17, or 12 and 17, everything I just named above, then you would realize that we lost due to field position. We lost because offensive routes weren't being finished out. We lost because the defense struggled to stop the run game and they were overworked and overtired. And we lost because of a ridiculous amount of turnovers. Our biggest L's, meaning we lost by more than a 9-point margin, were to the 49ers week 1, 31-17, and the Saints week 11, 34-17. Now, if you remove those two games being our biggest losses in the 2019 season, our loss margin average was roughly 6 points within 6 games. That sounds very winnable to me, because if you think of what 6 points are, if you look at 3 of those 6 games where we lost by under 3 points, you're talking about a field goal. You're talking about defensive mistakes. You're talking about offensive mistakes. You're talking about little things that could have easily been tweaked for those victories to be the Bucs. Keeping those things in mind, we have talked about the fact that as soon as Tom Brady came on board, he said, look, the NFC South is a different looking division and a tough defense with every team involved to face against. Realistically, your biggest threat is the Saints, because they're going to be a threat on the offensive as well as the defensive side of the ball. They do have that solid run game that you have to be careful for, but they do have a strong defense. And even though I question their draft picking this year and the format in which they win in, or who they chose first win, I questioned a lot of things about the Saints, but all in all, they found some defensive pieces to add to their already strong defense, which means they are going to be a bit more of a force to be reckoned with. Now, let's also keep in mind that week 11, that major loss that the Bucs took, there was 4 turnovers involved in week 11. The one other team that we should be more concerned about when it comes to the NFC South is the fact that the Falcons will be a little sneaky. They're not going to be as dominant on defense, but offensively, when it comes to this run game I keep mentioning, they have the new addition of Tom Gurley from the Rams. Now, if Gurley gets over 100 yards, he's going to take that W and seal the deal for his team. But aside from him, we have Devontae Freeman, who only, and I say only because he only rushed for 656 yards in the 2019 season, whereas his second and third year in the league, he rushed for over 1,000 yards. And then in 2017, he slowly but surely broke 800 yards. So if we're talking about a healthy, consistent Devontae Freeman, we're talking about a force to be reckoned with and something that we have to make sure that we can maintain and minimize his dominance on the field. Now, I just threw a lot of numbers and a lot of information at you guys, but realistically, what's the puzzle here that caused a lot of those unfortunate situations? And it's hard for me to say this because I respect every player that puts on a uniform, goes on that field, and works his ass off and pours his heart out to make things happen. But Jameis Winston with 30 turnovers, those turnovers came at the most crucial moments of these games. We now have Tom Brady, and people want to say, well, age this, and is he out of it this, and look at the numbers that he put up in 2019. Guys, he had some of the slowest wide receivers in the league in 2019. He also didn't have the protection that he had for the years before that in 2019. We see the name Patriots and we think that they're going to be this ultimate team every single year, regardless of the fact that trades happen and injuries happen. And yes, age is a factor, but when it comes to Tom Brady being here, if he has the protection that he needs to function in that pocket, we're looking at one of the biggest mistakes being corrected for this Bucs offense and defense to perform at an optimum level. Also, the young defense that carried the Bucs last season are going to be that much more familiar with one another because they're going into a second season, most of them, with each other. So we're talking about more chemistry. We're talking about more familiarity. We're talking about people that have gotten to know each other, read each other, understand each other that much more. We're talking about keeping majority of our offense together. We're talking about him having way more offensive weapons. We're talking about him having speed. We have a very talented wide receiver class, a very talented tight end class, and now this running back class has come together, aside from obviously my thoughts of having a big back, but you have more opportunities, you have more options, and more opportunities in the playbook, more options with the talent that you have on the field to execute in these games. If Tom Brady can throw under 30 turnovers, I'm pretty sure we can win more than 7 games. So my prediction for the 2020 season and why everybody should just wait until kickoff is I think the Bucs can take 11 wins this year. We're talking about 6 points on average, 2 field goals, less than a touchdown, and somebody who shouldn't throw as many turnovers. I'm thinking that it's not just all hype. I'm thinking the Bucs have a real opportunity here, and I'm thinking we'll pick up this conversation when the 2020 season kicks off. Now, aside from all of that, the Bucs released a statement confirming that they will be celebrating the holiday this Friday, Juneteenth. I'm sure I'm saying it right. They released a statement on Twitter, and I'm pretty sure their Instagram as well. So their facilities will be closed, and it will be a day off, or it'll be considered a holiday for everyone in the Bucs organization. Now, bye-bye Disney and Viva Las Vegas. As much as I like the convenience of the Pro Bowl being right here in Orlando, Florida, it's picking up and moving over to Las Vegas, and I don't mind that as long as media can be involved because who knows with COVID-19. But all in all, the 2021 Pro Bowl has now been officially moved to Las Vegas at the new Raiders Stadium, and of course, why not? We've been waiting for the Raiders to finally relocate to Las Vegas for years now, since the excitement of them being the Las Vegas Raiders, or in other people's cases, the full breakdown and despair that they went through to accept that the Raiders will not be Oakland, but now Las Vegas. People have been waiting to see the action take place in Las Vegas. So that's great news. I think it's exciting. And obviously they have to draw attention, publicity, and do all the advertising and PR to make Las Vegas what it's trying to be, a sports town. Now, something interesting that's taking place is, of course, there was footage and videos and pictures, and now all the conversation that revolves it, that Cam Newton was working out with Odell Beckham Jr. on Saturday, and it raised all the questions in the world. Is Cam Newton going to the Browns? And what happens when you have 2 number 1 draft picks on the same roster? Well, I think at this point it's kind of safe to say that Newton knew he was going to be a QB2. I don't think that they're going to come in and just push Mayfield to the side, give Newton that position, because all in all, Newton has had to overcome a lot of injuries. He's very talented. He is very skilled, but he is also very injury prone. So you've got a guy who you can really kind of put your team on his back. You know, he hasn't been battling through a bunch of injuries and stuff. It's just kind of finding that cohesion on the Browns. But I think that's kind of the bargain you sign on for when you become a Brown. No offense. I don't see the problem with Cam Newton going there. I see more options and opportunity. We know that their defense is starting to get in a more formidable position, but offensively, it was just like they had so much talent. They had so much opportunity. There's a lot going on there, but the connection was just not there. It lapsed. So who knows? Maybe Newton can step in on some plays and create that cohesion. Maybe there's particular plays they can have for Newton, particular plays they can have for Mayfield, because they don't have similar QB styles either. So you're creating an opportunity to be more versatile and to add more plays to that playbook. I'm not mad at it. We'll see what happens. I think it's a little chaotic, but I'm not a coach. In terms of other quarterback conversation, Chargers are looking to have a workout with Colin Kaepernick sometime this summer. And according to Roger Goodell, he says that Kaepernick should have a job in this league. And sources say that many other teams will be reaching out, offering workouts, and seeing where his career can go and how he can reestablish himself in the NFL. Let us know you guys' thoughts on where you think, you know, after the time that he's had off in the league since 2016, we know the kind of QB he was before that, his skill set, what he offers to a team. Where would you like to see Kaepernick get an opportunity if he returns to the league for the 2020 season? Make sure you comment at us. Make sure you message us. Let us know your thoughts on this, because it'll be interesting to see what would be the best system for Kaepernick to operate out of, because there's a lot of young QBs out there right now that the franchise is clearly about to be built around. So, and we have so many QB1 free agents right now that are about to settle for a QB2 deal. So this will be an interesting way to see how they put him back out there. And, you know, you can't just bring him back in and replace him for the notion of it, because it's going to look like a pity offer if we're being realistic. So where would you guys like to see Colin Kaepernick? Let us know, and we'll carry on that conversation on the next segment. We're going to head to a quick commercial break, guys, and when we get back, we'll talk some NBA.
All this time we fought side by side. We trained together. We lost together. And now, you're the only one standing in my way. It's been a while, old friend.
All right, guys, welcome back. So when it comes to the NBA conversation, NBA Commissioner Silver says that he is confident that they will address all of the return to play concerns. The biggest concern being that players are saying, we don't want to be stuck in a bubble. We don't want to worry about our families. We don't want to not be able to be in contact with our families for the length of the time to finish out the season. So the response on top of Silver's was, hey, we've got everything under control. We're going to make this as comfortable and as exciting and resort style as possible. The NBA releases full details on what this bubble in Orlando, Florida is going to contain. Players will have access to so much, they say. A player's lounge with NBA 2K, barbers, manicurists, a 24-hour VIP lounge, movie screenings, DJs, the ability to attend other games, and an on-site mental health professional for not only the players, but all team employees. They're trying to make this as comfortable as possible, even though these guys are going to be away from their families and their loved ones. And aside from that being one narrative, the other narrative is the fact that a lot of players have stepped up and said, look, there's a lot going on in the world right now. We don't want to take away from all the progression taking place, and we don't want to be distractions. And then the counter argument is you have a platform. You're an athlete. The sports world is not just there for sports and play. It's there for conversations that need to take place. It's there to be a middle ground for everyone. And all in all, it's a place of an opportunity of camaraderie when people get on the same page or when they're distracted by something they love so much that they put their differences aside and decide to have a conversation. So now the NBA has come up with another say in terms of, look, if you guys don't want to play, if you guys think you're going to be a distraction, if you don't want to utilize your platform, well, you let us know by June 24th, because players will be docked pay if they do not participate in the remainder of the season. That's how the NBA is going to handle the rest of that situation. I can't blame them for this because you guys already, I'm sure, see my frustration and the fact that the MLB is just going back and forth, counter argument, counter offer, counter argument, counter offer. Well, the NBA doesn't want to do that because the minute they started to get into the conversation category of being the next MLB, Commissioner Silver shut it down. He is trying his hardest to meet these guys in the middle. There's only so much you can do. I know that with everything going on, people either think that COVID-19 has been minimized. It's not as wreaking as much havoc. It's being very underestimated. But the fact of the matter is that it's still out there. And the worst case of it is the fact that people can be asymptomatic. So like I said on Monday, the precautionary measures that people are trying to put in play here can only be helpful to a certain extent. So you gotta meet these guys in the middle. I mean, between the owners of these teams and the commissioners, they're really trying to do the best here and make it as comfortable as possible. But yeah, you can't control people that aren't a part of your team. So if families are coming in and out of the equation, then it's just going to cause a potential spread. And look, the season's going to end, which is going to cost everybody a lot more money. So let us know if you guys think it'll be worth the players taking a pay cut to not participate, between, not being able to see their families and obviously not wanting to take away from all the positive progression taking place in our world right now. Now, in further COVID-19 conversation, Nuggets head coach Malone says he had COVID-19. As of now, sources say that he should be clear of it. Everything is fine. And he says that he is feeling all right and okay to hop in and continue off a season. Players are seeking more than an NBA title. They're seeking change. So all in all, they want it to be known that if they do return, that they don't want the narrative to change. They don't want to minimize all the progress taking place, but the debate continues whether or not it would actually be a distraction or not. We'll let that one play out on its own. As for the NHL, you guys know I keep screwing this up. As for the NHL, we got a chance to get some insight from Tampa Bay Lightning coach Cooper on NHL playoffs and what he's been doing during quarantine. Well, Coach Cooper has actually spent his isolation in Idaho. He quote unquote says there's not any humidity there and it's quite refreshing. So he's not a fan of all the fun and the sun and the beaches and everything that most people come down to Florida for. I'm guessing. I don't mind the humidity, but I did grow up here, so whatever. The Lightning did have nearly 17 players stay put and self-quarantine in Tampa Bay. So would that give the Tampa Bay Lightning an advantage when it comes to going into training camp and diving into playoffs? Well, Coach Cooper said maybe not exactly, because the guys were adhering to quarantine regulations, which means a lot of them just started seeing each other outside of phase 2 of the NHL and the players being able to get together in small groups in the arena. So he's like, I don't know if I would really count that as an advantage, but it's nice that some of the guys were able to stay put. The guys that are from, outside of the country and stuff, they didn't leave. So that could be a slight advantage, because some of these teams, these guys are now saying that they're not even going to return back because they either joined the league for their country, like we talked about Dallas Stars pull-out on Monday, or other guys just don't feel like they'll be able to make it back in time, quarantine, make sure they're safe and ready to go, dive into a season, miss out on the full summer that they usually get, and then turn over into the next season. So I think that might be where Tampa Bay Lightning has the advantage, is that we probably had the most foreign players actually stay put. As for playoff prep, is it going to be harder or is it going to be easier? Coach Cooper said, you know what, I honestly think it's probably going to be a bit easier. When you look at playoff conversation, it actually starts at the top of the season. It starts when you're doing training camp before you go into preseason and regular season. And what happens there is that you have around 65 players that you are analyzing every single day. And it's not just your decision. It has to be run through GMs and it has to be run through scouts. So you're doing a lot more vetting. You're making a lot of categories and you're just narrowing them down and narrowing them down. He says, right now we have our team. Our team is set. Our players are already capped. There's not going to be long ice day sessions, and then there's less demand on the coaches to be, spread out or spread too thin. There's going to be more focus of the team at hand, where the advantage really does play in, but it's not going to just be for the Tampa Bay Lightning. It's going to be for all teams, is that any unhealthy players or injured players, depending on what their timeline of return was, a lot of those guys are going to be back in action when it comes to playoffs. So luckily for the Tampa Bay Lightning, that means that we get El Capitan back, Steven Stamkos, Victor Hedman, who is a major key player to the Tampa Bay Lightning. And then we also get back Jan Ruda, who was stepping up a lot in the defensive zone for the Tampa Bay Lightning. So, of course, that's going to be beneficial, but I'm not sure exactly when I mentioned it. But we did have a few new guys join the Tampa Bay Lightning roster, and they were just kind of starting to find their stride in the lines that they were being placed in by Coach Cooper. Coach Cooper is known for shifting his lines up a lot. Take it from somebody who likes to dive into the details. Every game, I would be sitting there waiting for the lineup to get released to see who he was going to switch or who was going to be playing on what line, what shift that he was going to throw out there. And when I tell you almost every game I had to readjust that, the only thing that stayed probably the most consistent was the D lines that he put together. Like, that's where you saw the most consistency. As for his forward and his wingers, any day could be something completely different. So maybe they'll have an opportunity to retouch up on the gelling that they were starting to put there. I wonder what he's going to do with his lines. That's what I'm most looking forward to. Is he going to try to go with something more consistent, or is he just going to continue to shuffle it around? That could be the advantage. Nobody can really game plan for a coach who's just constantly changing on the ball. Now, all in all, Coach Cooper said with the format of returning that they have now, they can't tiptoe into any games. It's unrealistic, and it's going to cause more injury than anything. He feels like they're just going to have to put the pedal down and just go hardcore to every game that they attend and get in playoff mode as much as possible, which means the training camp that they have before playoffs is going to be extremely significant. That's where they'll take it slow. But then when games start up, they're going to go for it with everything they got and see what the outcome is. I have fingers crossed, because there has just been a lot of almost seasons these past couple of years for the Tampa Bay Lightning. They have a lot of talent, but it's just finding that right gel. So hopefully this is the year without an asterisk on it. If anybody tells me anything about an asterisk mark when it comes to Tampa Bay Lightning hockey, I will be very upset. Now, the other conversation is that we know that sports teams in general are trying to create, helmets. If the guys are wearing helmets or something within their padding, they're trying to add those extra safety precautionary measures. So for hockey, if you guys paid attention, bear hockey is probably one of the top equipment, or the only equipment that hockey players are using when you get to a certain level. And the minute the quarantine took place, and the biggest issue was that there weren't enough masks, or medical grade masks to say the least, bear hockey came out with a face shield for people to use and started sending it out to medical fields, and they helped out so much. I mean, they should have been a community hero on one of our segments long ago, but all in all, they created a helmet to help create extra safety, or an extra shielding there to make sure that when guys are up against each other, there's a lot of contact in hockey, but when they're knocking each other around, that the spit's not getting out and that there's not a potential spread going on. Well, even though some sources are saying that players are not going to be expected to wear face shields, Bear Hockey still released a Concept 3 splash guard face shield that players can use that will actually provide additional splash protection around the mouth while maintaining a high level of vision and breathability. If I were an athlete and there was still a COVID running rampant, I'd probably wear the face shield. But that's just me. One update for the NHL is that Seattle's NHL arena is actually months behind schedule, but let's be serious, it's probably because of COVID-19 contributing to the delay. When we get more updates on that, we'll definitely let you guys know, because that's been an exciting new path that'll take place amongst the NHL. Stick with us, guys, as we go to another quick commercial break, and then we come back chatting about the MLB. How exciting.
I'm not picking it up. You pick it up.
I'm not picking it up.
Well, somebody's got to pick it up.
I'll pick it up. They're clean. 'Cause my honey's clean. Oh yeah, I'm Charmin clean. That's how I know they're clean.
Charmin Ultra Strong is woven like a washcloth and just cleans better.
Yeah, I'm Charmin clean.
The kid does have a
That's
point.
My honey's clean.
Enjoy the go with Charmin. And for an extra clean finish, try Charmin Flushable Wipes.
All right, guys, welcome back. So, I mean, obviously, we have to touch on every sport. I'm not that upset with the MLB. It's just like, get it together. But Dr. Fauci actually came out to probably try to help assist in one direction or another, saying that the MLB should not play too deep into fall. More specifically, they should not play past October or even touch October. That is his professional and medical advice. Maybe that'll help the players come to more of a middle ground with the owners and everyone else in conversations. But Yankees president calls for talks to resume to figure out how can we bring a solution to the table and stop with all the no's. There has to be a middle ground here that we can come to so we can get the season taken off. It's going to be more of a hit to have absolutely no season than for people to negotiate lower pay. I'm actually almost shocked at how much that's just kind of like going over heads here, unless I'm missing something. No season is going to take a negative. A season is going to put a little bit of change in everybody's pocket. So we'll see if another counter argument and counter offer comes from that conversation. And then another update with the MLB is that they have delayed international signings. Obviously, if they can't figure out a season, they can't really offer anybody a contract. They can't offer anyone any money, and they don't even know what their money looks like right now. Soccer! You guys know I get excited every time we get to soccer. Okay. Coppa Italia final was today, and it was not in favor of Cristiano Ronaldo. Napoli beat them, but their goalie was just on fire today. That really came down to the fact that they had the best goalie in net. So we have a very, very unhappy Cristiano Ronaldo. Boo-hoo. Libsyn is to host the Champions League knockouts and the final. And guys, guess who's in Champions League? Bayern Munich, of course. If anybody thought that wasn't going to happen, then we can't be friends. And then Premier League returned today, which is also super exciting. All the soccer excitement just really hit on hump day. It was a great way to make me not feel like it's been a sluggish week. Premier League returned today, and all players decided to take a knee before kickoff to send their message in support of the BLM movement. And the first match of the day was a draw, and then Manchester City. I don't even know if I can say this and like feel okay about it. Manchester City shut out Arsenal 3-0. I got it off my chest really quickly. You guys know, aside from my Bayern Munich obsession, I do love Arsenal. I am an Arsenal fan, but that was just tough to watch today. It put me in a weird predicament. Like, am I just happy that soccer is like all the way back, or am I kind of happy soccer's back but pissed that my team lost that bad today? There was a lot going on the field, so we won't even dive into all that. It wouldn't even be exciting conversation. Stick with us as we go to one more commercial break, and then we break down some community heroes and a little bit more SB conversation.
At Duke Energy, we deliver electricity and so much more, like free home energy assessments, rebates for energy-saving improvements, payment options to help you better manage your budget, and even bill credits for helping the community use less energy. So no matter what you're doing, we can help you make better energy choices every day. It's just another way we bring power to your life. How much can you save?
All right, guys, welcome back. So as you know, we like to close out these segments with a community hero, sending all the positive vibes or praises in one direction or another. So our community heroes today are actually going to be the award runner-uppers, or the people in the category to win the Muhammad Ali Sports Humanitarian Award. We know that the ESPYs are this Sunday at 9 p.m., as I mentioned earlier, and this is a very significant category, especially for somebody like me, because you guys know I constantly mention my love, support, and adoration for people that take the time to give back, make it a priority, and, you know, find something near and dear to their heart. It doesn't always have to be something to an extreme. It doesn't always have to be something that feels like such a heavy or hard issue. It's just the idea that we all have a purpose here, and we take part of that purpose to redirect it and give back. Obviously, I'm very passionate about that. So some of the athletes that are in this category right now is obviously Kevin Love as a front runner. We know that mental health is extremely near and dear to his heart, and bless him, because he was very transparent to why mental health became very near and dear to his heart. So, of course, he's in this category. We have Maya Moore, the McCourtney twins that used to play for the Patriots, Nelson Cruz, and WWE star Titus O'Neil. Let us know who you guys think, or who may have touched you or on an emotional level, or, you know, inspired you to get more involved. Or the hard part with getting involved, guys, and I know this on a personal level, is that you can be willing and wanting and excited and passionate about so many different things, but then it's like, where do I get started? How do I get started? And the idea of just Googling things sounds crazy and asinine sometimes, but if you go on there and just, you know, start looking into things that you're excited and passionate about, and not feel like you have to do something, again, so extreme or so heavy, everything counts. Every little bit counts. So let us know if any of these people, or athletes per se, you know, inspired you or made you feel motivated to give back, or, you know, have made you do something or create an organization of the sorts. I would love to hear these stories, and then we would obviously shout you guys out in the next segment during our Community Heroes piece. But who's you guys' winner? I know for me, just because of how much I have heard and how transparent he was, because it's not hard. I mean, it's not easy to talk about mental health, for one, and it's even harder to speak on your own issues for mental health. So for me, not only because he's a front runner, but just because of his story, his testimony, and how passionate he really is about this, Kevin Love, hands down in my book, is the winner, and he will be our all in all community hero for tonight's segment. Guys, per usual, stay safe, stay sane, stay smart, be kind, be compassionate. It's not hard to meet people in the middle, and more importantly, always take a minute to step back, step out of your own shoes, step out of your own perspective, and think to yourself, what would I do if I was this other person? What would I do if I had their experiences, their upbringing, if I was always in their situation, from their perspective, their point of view? It'll help you move that closer to the middle. And if we all just meet each other in the middle, I promise there will be a lot more compromise, a lot more change, and a lot more compassion. Stay safe, stay sane, and I will see you guys on Friday at 8 p.m.